Oh, well, we had a PR safety car this week, which, to those listening, just means that someone in the world of F1 makes a PR blunder. And what happens when someone makes a blunder in racing? There's a safety car. So
Nicole and Briana are lined up on the grid. It's lights out, and away we go. This week's grid walk.
PR safety car. This week, Stefano Domenicali, who is the head of the Liberty Media Formula One side of things, so not the FIA. FIA handles stewarding rules, Formula One, media, money. That's the division. That's the short and sweet. Yeah. He, at a different race for a different series, was interviewed by a Portugal news outlet, and he was quoted as saying, "In a normal weekend, the one consisting of free practice, 1 and 2 on Friday, each session should be awarding either points or single qualifying laps or a qualification for a different or shorter Saturday race instead of a third free practice, perhaps the mechanism of a reverse grid." So basically he's throwing out a bunch of ideas. Essentially he goes on to say, we're just putting everything on the table to mix up what a weekend format is. Of course, the headline that takes over the media, so there was a lot of context there, is that he basically called for a canceling of F1 practices for a lot of reasons. One being sporting. He thinks the teams have too much time to get things right over the weekend, so there's less opportunity for a grid shakeup. But also he's saying that he wants more points-giving sessions for excitement. But, of course, scandalous headlines, head of F1 wants to cancel all practices, and some people love this idea, some people hate this idea. No one's in the middle about this idea, which is why it's a PR safety car. Basically, this idea went out into the ether in a way that I'm sure F1 didn't love. Because it's an incomplete idea when it's looked at that way. That's why I actually think this is super interesting. There's, we want to have less free practice sessions. They're going to replace it with something. The way sports leagues make all of their money is normally through media broadcasting rights. Therefore, F1's not going to be like, yes, you know what? I used to give you X number of hours of TV content. We're now going to give you less, and we want you to pay us more. That's not how it works. But, of course, none of that went out into the ether. It was just panic because free practice is going away.
No free practice. No practice. There will be no free practice. It will be canceled. I don't believe in it. And that is all he probably said, right? Yeah, no one wants to.
Yeah, I didn't just read a very long, coordinated quote that was really just about them being flexible and discussing changing up the Grand Prix weekend, which right. I do think is an interesting concept. I think generally speaking, a lot of people, you and I included, are not big sprint weekend people because the sprint race is normally kind of boring.
Yeah.
Overall. And there's a lot that can be done to fix the sprint race. But I do like the thought process that this PR blunder is sending us down. So if he's not going to fill in the back half for us, I thought it'd be fun if I pitched a bunch of ideas at you of if we're going to take away or change up the way a weekend works and take away some practice. Here are some both unhinged and actual logical ideas of different things we could replace it with. And then you can rank my pitches on, 0 to 5, 5 meaning F1 take this idea, 0 being that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Don't ever mention that again.
Am I cosplaying as Stefano? Should I get glasses and I'll just pretend that it'll be this is response. This is all my pitches. Okay, we're gonna rate this. Here we go. We will. But again, I'm ready for ridiculous. Give me unhinged. I want these ideas. You're welcome again to F1 for good ideas, courtesy of Briana's brain. There you go.
Yeah, because I am on the side of I find enjoyment watching practice. But I know most people don't watch F1 the way I do, with the live timing and looking and estimating lap times and using that to predict the weekend. And I do also just want to throw out there that I completely understand the argument that if we're not going to allow in-season testing, we need to allow the teams to have on-track time.
Right.
But maybe they don't need 3 free practice sessions, because the one thing I do like about a sprint weekend is that you have an opportunity for someone to get something wrong. Like Red Bull got Brazil wrong last year. Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't have had that great Mercedes weekend if Red Bull didn't get it wrong because they had more practice time. So I get the value in that. But, so I'm going to start with a more serious pitch.
Okay, I think that's fair. Start with the serious and let's, grow to the ridiculous.
So, super simple, easy way is sprint should just have its own qualifying session. So we have a sprint race, we have a real race, we have 2 qualifying sessions. We replace the Friday FP1 or FP2 with an additional qualifying. Easy fix. Then so we don't get that weird
qualifying sessions and
2 qualifying, 2 race.
Huh?
1 practice.
So 1 practice Friday, qualifying, race, quali race.
Yeah, or quali race. Either way. But I think something we all don't love about sprint races is that it just puts the grid back to normal for the Grand Prix.
Right.
But if you have 2 qualifying sessions,
gets it spicy. I'm not. Right? You know what? That's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. I don't want to give a 5, so I may retroactively give a 5 and change. But right now I'm at a 4.
Okay.
If they're listening, I'm now like we should have a meeting.
I will point out that that's not a uncommon thought.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, like so many people feel that way. That's why I'm starting. I'm like, okay, if you think that's a 5, I think you're gonna love some of the more like ridiculous things I have out here. So, no matter what, this is how do we spice up practice? Well, F1 loves scaling things right now. So like wind tunnel time, CFD testing is all scaled to help the slower teams. So imagine we had 90 minutes over the course of a weekend for practice, but Red Bull only gets 10 minutes of practice, and McLaren is in P10, so they get 90 minutes. So then you get like the top teams frantically trying to complete as much learning they can do in 10 minutes. So we get some help for the below the grid teams, and we get some frantic chaoticness with like the top 3 teams trying to get in enough practice time.
Okay, so I'm answering this not in what I would want, because I would love to see this. I would absolutely think this would be so hectic and so fun to watch. But I'm trying to think of this perspective as they want to spice this up because more eyes, more TV time, all of this. And I'm thinking the more casual fan would not be as interested in watching this type of free
That's fair. That's fair. But if we're going to spice up practice,
right,
I don't want them to give points for it.
I also agree with that.
Yeah.
Because
this was the best idea I had to spice.
Right. Yes. So again, I love this. I would absolutely think this would be incredible, but also at the same time that I'm like, no, that means Mercedes will have less time, and I don't want McLaren to have 90 minutes of testing to figure out whatever the heck they couldn't figure out in the off season. But so I'm gonna give it a 1, but only for the business fans that aren't as intense as us wouldn't be watching it at 6 a.m. on ESPN.
Well, to be fair, they're not watching practice now.
Right.
Which is why, admittedly, they're having this conversation. It's like,
right.
How do we get more people to watch?
I don't think it'll cause more eyes other than us.
But would it improve racing on the weekend? Maybe.
Ooh, you're right there.
Yeah. I'm honestly, like, I'm just backing it for the sake of backing it.
Yeah,
if they actually implemented this, the meltdown that would happen.
It would be horrendous. We could not have that.
Yeah. So, an issue with sprint weekends is that they're not making the sprints long enough that there's a tire degradation. This doesn't solve that problem.
Okay. I thought you had the solution.
Yes. So my proposal, I do have solutions for that. But I'm going up front and saying that this idea does not solve that problem. I think that every race weekend, we should add more sessions, and there should be a super sprint. So, like, you just need to go crazy for 10 laps. Then there needs to be the normal race, which should be averaged out at whatever is a 1 to 2 stopper, the way they do races now. And then there should be an endurance race added. And this should be 3 times the length of a normal F1 race. But the catch is that they need to do what they do in endurance racing, where the drivers actually need to work as a team, and one does like the first stint and one does the second stint.
That's crazy. Every team would need so many more tires. Like,
well, yes.
It would be impossible. Like, we could not have it. Oh!
But I just love the idea that, like, whether or not Max won would have to do with also whether or not, like, Checo performs. Like, I love the idea of, like, making the drivers have to work together more. So adding an endurance race where, like, they each have to do a stint and there's, like,
oh my god! Max would hate it so much!
Oh, I think all the drivers would hate it.
Oh, yeah. But now that exact scenario made me laugh. That's a...
Yeah. So we have all these different kinds of races. So there's the sprint race, which is just going to be about like power unit performance, the normal race and Grand Prix we all know and love, and then this endurance race edition.
God, could you imagine? They would have to also get rid of the budget cap. Like, there would be no way that they wouldn't be able to... The amount of times that there would be crashes, they would... This is... Anyway, besides all of that, I'm going to give it a 3.
Okay.
Because I have too many logistical questions. Otherwise, is it no? Because I'm not ready to look at
them on like how much you actually want to see them.
Hey, you're so right.
You know, at the end of
I'll
this,
do a ranking of all of like how much I would want to see them. Then I'm gonna give this one a 4. This is a 4 because then I'll eventually just be able to rank them in whatever way I want.
Okay, my last and most unhinged idea is that Friday, in addition to you get free practice 1 and free practice 2, but during the course of that, you are given skills challenges you must also complete. And those skills challenges are for points, and you can complete them at any time during the practice session. And what do I mean when I'm talking about skills challenges? Well, I mean like fastest pit stop, and like best reaction time from a driver, and like something random, like how quickly can you get from the starting line to turn 3, depending on the race circuit. Like just random exercises that they need to complete. So you can't just go out there in your free practice and do like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna like do my thing. It's like you need to do your thing and work in random skills.
See, and like I knew that when you were pitching this idea, that all of your skills were gonna be like normal F1 skills, but my brain immediately started thinking of like Nickelodeon DoubleDare or like Guts, and they're like climbing a mountain. And so like Max pulls in, jumps out of the car, has to then go run up a hill.
So originally, that's where I started. I was like, okay, what's the most ridiculous thing could I get the drivers to do? Right. And I was like, okay, so let me bring this back down to like actual F1 things. But in reality, like, would I love it for media day instead of them having to sit in a media pen and answer the same questions they always answer? Like, what if they had to do that while, like, just completing, like, random Nickelodeon... Oh, do you remember the Disney Channel games?
Of course I do. I remember the Disney Channel games. Of course I remember the Disney Channel games. God, all of the Jonas Brothers competed.
Yes. I just would love if every weekend on media day, that's how the F1 drivers had to, like, interact. And that's how we interviewed them on things. Like, while they were climbing up a rock wall, we were like, so, Charles, like, do you have faith in Ferrari still? I don't know, I'm just trying to get to the top here.
Oh, no, I'm not thinking about that right now. I have to ring the bell. Those are the top of this. All of this was for so many obvious reasons would never happen. That is so incredibly funny and unhinged, and like brings a whole new meaning to like Drive to Survive. Like,
So I need to take that idea and scale it down to spicing up free practice with normal F1 skills. Like, how quickly can the team change the tire? Oh, you get 5 points in the constructors because you randomly changed a tire faster than everyone else in free practice 2. Like,
so many, oh my god, and there's so many, like, old people getting so mad about all these things. That would just imagine that.
Disclaimer to all of this is we're having goofy fun here.
Yeah,
I think
like, none of
you
this...
Right. You and I, at our core, I think just want the normal Grand Prix weekend and, like, don't need to change all of this. But, hey, we're gonna if everyone takes itself too seriously, we're gonna have fun with this. If they're not going to fill in the blank of we're gonna take away practice and replace it with X, we are going to give you fun X's. Just, there's my disclaimer to all of this.
Please no one tell us that weekends are fine as they are. We know.
We like
wake
them.
up every weekend and watch all of the things. We pay to watch all of the things when we can technically get it for free without commercials.
Right. Yeah. We could get on here and do an entire segment about how, like, we don't want them to change the Grand Prix weekend, and we actually like watching practice, and I fundamentally believe that the problem with practice isn't practice, it's the broadcasting of practice. We could change up the broadcast and make it so much more interesting. Like, Nicole gets my explanation during practice as I'm sitting there looking at lap times, and, like, bring someone into the broadcast booth to sit there and live analyze what we're seeing. And the best part of practice for me is watching Sam Collins walk down the pit lane and explain the changes to us. Like, you can do so much more on the different sides of F1, but, like, those are too rational. I want Disney Channel games.
Okay, well, when you're framing Disney Channel games of it all, that puts it out of 5. So, what do I most want to see? I mean, that. Like, I really want to see the Disney Channel games. Oof. So, I gotta see Disney Channel games for sure. Then I guess I'll put, like, a double quali.
Okay, yeah, that's a rational. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have God now, and then there's the I can't remember now.
Endurance race.
The endurance.
Oh, here, I'll give you the 4
pitches. Give me 4.
I said, yeah, 2 were changes to the practice sessions themselves,
right?
Which was 1, the skills challenge,
yes,
and 2, the scaling practice times,
and
then 2 were additions to the F1 weekend. 1 was just adding additional qualifying for every type of race, and the second one was an endurance weekend. So the teammates had to work together.
Okay. It's so ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Disney Channel games.
All of this is.
Endurance racing. Double quali. And then practice time change. Yeah.
Scaled
back practice time change. That is my order. Surprised. I want to see the most unhinged stuff first.
Yeah.
And that's because I love the way that the calendar is. So show me something completely different.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what they do. And
yeah, because it'll be another something that they trial. It's not going to just be like, no more free practice. It'll be, because I feel like this is also just another, like, attempted solution where they're like, well, sprint races might not be working, but maybe after this year, because there's so many of them, maybe they'll work because there's so many. But if not, then we'll try something else.
Right. And I do commend their willingness to try things.
Mm-hmm.
I would appreciate, actually, if they were more flexible with when they were trying them. You know, like, I think we're year 3 of sprint races right now, and I think overall everyone's like, okay, so the pro is less practice. That's actually a pro of the sprint race weekends. The con is the sprint race. So maybe we try to come up with a different solution here to achieve the same goal, which, admittedly, I think that's what the CEO of F1, Stefano Domenicali, was trying to say here. So, which is sad about why this all ended up to be a PR safety car, because I think think what he was getting at was actually a very smart thing, but then it was taken and extrapolated into, we're getting rid of all free practice, which I don't think would ever be. I think it's good to remember that, like, in F1, there are 3 voting parties in every decision. There's the FIA, there's F1, and there's all 10 teams as a collective unit. So for something, like, I don't think the teams would ever let all practice. Like, this is not...
It's too
Everyone calm down.
for, like, data. They can't. And, for getting certain drivers like, reserve drivers getting time in cars. It means too much, so. Not gonna happen, but fun to do. Thank you so much for listening to this segment from episode 10 of Gridwalk. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more F1 videos. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, why not watch the rest of the podcast? It's really great. It's really fun. We have a wonderful time. It's so close. Click down here. Click here for the full thing.